296 Temperance. Presence of God, teach me, O Lord, to mortify my flesh, in order that I may live fully the life of the Spirit. Meditation. 1. We may fail in our duty, either because of the hardships and sacrifices we encounter, or because of the allurements of pleasure. Our help in the first case is the virtue of fortitude, in the second, the virtue of temperance. Temperance is the virtue which moderates in us the inordinate desire for sensible pleasure, keeping it within the limits assigned by reason and faith. Sin has produced in us the great discord by which the inferior part tends to rebel against the superior, and craves that which is contrary to the Spirit. We shall never be able to defend ourselves against the attractions of pleasure, without the help of this virtue, which has been infused by God into our souls, for the express purpose of enabling us to regulate our disordered tendency to pleasure. As fortitude, with its accompanying virtues of magnanimity, patience, and perseverance, is a sustaining power for our weakness, in like manner, temperance, with the virtues which spring from it, sobriety, chastity, continence, modesty, controls our concupiscence. Nevertheless, although this virtue is a check, it has not only a negative task, to temper, restrain, and moderate the disordered love of pleasure, but it has also a positive one, that of regulating our passions, and permitting us to use our senses in perfect harmony with the requirements of the Spirit, in such a way that they do not disturb our spiritual life. In this way temperance, together with grace, and the other virtues, heals and elevates our nature, by re-establishing in us the harmony which was destroyed by sin. However, this cannot be realized without our cooperation, which, in regard to temperance, consists above all in the mortification of our passions and senses. St. Paul says, if you live according to the flesh you shall die, but if by the Spirit you mortify the deeds of the flesh, you shall live. Rom 8:13. The virtue of temperance has been infused into us to mortify the deeds of the flesh. This mortification is not an end in itself, but it is an indispensable condition for the life of the Spirit. 2. The beauty of the virtue of temperance lies in the fact that it helps us to turn back on the downhill path taken by our first parents in consequence of their sin. In order to re-establish perfect harmony between spirit and matter, we have to ascend an arduous path. Just as a horseman, before setting out on a race, bridles his spirited horse, so we, to take this road, must impose on our flesh the strong bridle of mortification, so as to bring under control all its appetites and movements. One easily understands how important mortification is in the realm of chastity. It is an illusion to think we can live chastely without bodily mortification, for neither the virtue nor the vow of chastity changes our nature, or makes us insensible to the allurements of the senses, the world, and the devil. The need of mortification of the sense of taste, however, is less understood. In this matter, even souls striving for perfection are quite free in admitting sensible pleasure, considering it a wholly innocent pleasure, and of no consequence for the spiritual life. This is not so, since everything inordinate, even to the slightest degree, in the life of the senses eventually impairs, more or less, the life of the spirit, and weakens it. In fact, There is disorder in the use of food and drink every time we allow the amount we use to be determined in any way by the pleasure we find in it, taking more than is necessary if we like it, or if we do not like it, showing displeasure, or refusing to take it. This too is being a slave to our senses, and allowing ourselves to be dominated by sensible pleasure. It is to open a door to the rebellion of the senses against the Spirit. St. Paul warns us, "Be not deceived, for what things a man shall sow, those also shall he reap. For he that soweth in his flesh, of the flesh also shall reap corruption. But he that soweth in the Spirit, of the Spirit shall reap life everlasting." Gal 6, 7.8. He who in this life sows sensible pleasures of any kind whatsoever, sows corruption, because all that is of the senses is destined to perish and leads us astray. Then how can a soul that aspires to a deeply spiritual life, subject itself, even though it be in a slight matter, to sense satisfactions? "Weary not yourself," says St. John, "of the cross, for you shall not enter into spiritual delight and sweetness, if you give not yourself to mortification of all this that you desire." $MJ 38. Colloquy. Tm not astonished, O Lord, at human affection, for you have wounded my heart with your perfect charity, and have protected it with the guard of purity. Oh, if only blind mortals would taste the delights and sweetness of your holy love! I think they would immediately hate the pleasures of the senses, and would be filled with loathing and disgust for them. Thirsty and anxious, they would hasten to drink from the fountain of your sweetness. Why do they not run in the odor of your perfumes? I understand eternal truth. If they meditated and considered attentively, they would engrave in their memory the immense favors you bestow upon them daily. They would easily allow themselves to be drawn by the ineffable sweetness of your love, and they would hasten with eagerness and longing to take delight in the fragrance of your sweetness. Saint Catherine of Siena. I have but one desire, Lord, to seek you. And while I seek you, I will never stop to pluck the flowers that I may find on my way, that is, I will not pause to enjoy the pleasures which may be offered to me in this life, because they would delay me on my journey. I will not apply my heart to riches and worldly goods, neither will I accept the pleasures and delights of my flesh, nor rest in the sweetness and consolations of my spirit, in order not to be kept from seeking you, my God, and my love, over the mountains of virtues and labors. Grant, O Lord, that my soul may really be enamored of you, that it esteem you above all else, and then, trusting in your love and in your help, I shall have the strength to cast far from me the desires of sense, and all natural affections. Compare J.C. South Carolina, 3, 5-10.